Hi, everybody, and welcome back to the Nature Cure Summit, where we are driving home the idea that all you need to heal, grow, and thrive can be found in nature, the universe, and within ourselves. I'm interviewing experts from across the globe and across many different modalities during the summit to bring to you the ideas and the inspiration, the education, so you can know that you can use nature and the power of the universe and yourself to heal and to really live your best life for you and your family. So today we're talking about a topic that I feel is super important, and there's not a lot of real information about natural healing about Lyme disease. So we have an expert here, Dr. Darin Ingles. He is one of the most sought after people in naturopathic medicine on the issue of Lyme disease. He's been published in numerous publications. He's been in the health field for over 25 years with a doctorate from Bastyr University in Seattle, Washington, and he's also did his residency there. Darin has a book coming out next year on the topic of Lyme disease called The Lyme Paradox. So that's going to be out, I believe, in 2018 in the spring. So I want to welcome you, Darin, to the Nature Cure Summit, and thank you so much for being here.
Oh, thanks for having me, Michelle.
Awesome. Thanks, Darin. So we're talking about Lyme disease. Lyme disease, for people who are listening who may not know what it is, it affects over 300,000 people in the United States that we know of. A lot of times Lyme goes undiagnosed because there's not a lot of information about it. So I really think that this topic is huge, not only for the moms and the parents listening, but also for the welfare of their children as well, because it does, affect children and the elderly more often than not, because it happens when you're outdoors. So I want you to just, for people who don't know and don't understand what exactly Lyme is, how you get it, and what happens in the body when you do get it, if you can just explain a little bit about Lyme. And then after you do that, I want you to talk about why you are dedicating your life to Lyme disease.
Sure. Well, Lyme disease is actually a bacterial infection. And most of us have had experience of having a sinus infection or bronchitis. When someone coughs on you, you get sick. Lyme is a little bit different because unlike a respiratory infection that you get from someone coughing on you, this is an infection you actually acquire through usually a tick bite. And the problem that people run into and why a lot of people go undiagnosed is they don't know they had a tick bite. You can't feel a tick bite unlike a mosquito bite. So you could get bitten by a tick that carries Lyme disease. You wouldn't necessarily know that you got bit by a tick, and by the time you find out, you've already been exposed and you're starting to have symptoms. And the symptoms...
How soon after you get bit by this tick would the symptoms start showing up?
Most people will start to experience symptoms within a week of their tick bite, but it can actually take up to a month to start experiencing symptoms. Okay. So there is quite a bit of difference in the timing of when people start to become symptomatic.
Okay. So when people start coming down with those symptoms, if they maybe did not know they got bit by a tick, what are the symptoms? How are they diagnosed, misdiagnosed maybe? Like, what do people think they're coming down with?
Well, classic Lyme disease, the symptoms we see in people that have sort of acute Lyme disease, often they'll complain of headaches, and it's not just a run-of-the-mill tension headache. It's that throbbing, pounding, almost like a migraine headache. Fever, chills, often a very high fever, 103, 104, 105 are not uncommon. Some people experience numbness and tingling in their hands and feet. Some people experience pain in their spine, mostly in the low back. The classic Lyme symptom is what they call a bullseye rash. You look at this rash and you see these sort of concentric circles that looks like a bullseye target. Okay. That is the dead giveaway. If you ever see that on your skin, there's no other illness that causes that other than Lyme disease. So if you see that rash, you know that you've been exposed. But these other symptoms, they sometimes look like the flu. They sometimes look like meningitis. They sometimes look like other types of viral illness. So and the other thing I did mention is also sometimes you get joint pain.
Okay.
So probably the most commonly misdiagnosed illness is some sort of autoimmune disease like rheumatoid arthritis, lupus, and things of that nature. Because the symptoms overlap with a lot of other autoimmune diseases, it's very easy for a doctor to misdiagnose it.
Yeah, so Darin, tell us a little bit about what got you interested in Lyme disease.
Well, there's nothing more motivating than a little personal experience. So I live in Connecticut, and I moved here in 2000. And in 2002, I started experiencing symptoms of Lyme. I had 105 fever. I had joint pain. I had all the classic symptoms. And I didn't realize it until I was ready to go to the hospital that I had a big bullseye behind my left leg.
Oh.
I couldn't see it. Someone else had seen it. So it wasn't until they saw it that I realized, oh, okay, this is Lyme disease. And that was in 2002. So I did what everyone else is supposed to do, and I took antibiotics. Mm-hmm. And after 4 days, I felt great. Unfortunately, that lasted about 8 months. And at the time, I was opening my practice and burning the candle at both ends. Mm-hmm. And I started to become symptomatic again. And when I went back to antibiotics, it didn't do anything. I then went through months and months, up to I think it was about 9 months of different antibiotics that didn't provide any relief at all. And I started to realize that this was not the solution for me. And I started looking into other alternatives of treatment.
Wow, that's really interesting. So you didn't realize you got bit by the tick, or did you know you got bit by a tick and just didn't think anything of it?
No, I had no idea. I didn't feel it, and I'm not really an outdoorsy person, even though I live in Connecticut. But I did have a small dog that did share a bed with me at night, so I'm quite sure that the dog was probably the carrier, as animals are very often carriers of ticks. And the problem is these ticks are really, really small. You know, even when you look at it on your skin, it's about the size of a pinhead. So most people, if they did see it, would mistake it as just a little fleck of dirt and would probably ignore it. But because you can't feel the tick bite, again, most people don't have any idea that they've been exposed.
Wow. Okay, so you went to the hospital and they gave you antibiotics. You said you started to feel better after a few days. So do you recommend in your practice that people go straight to antibiotics, or is there some other method that you're looking at as treatment?
Well, for acute Lyme disease, in my case, where you know you were exposed, you have the acute symptoms, there's actually good evidence that antibiotics are a reasonable place to start. Okay. And for some people, it does the trick. I have a lot of patients who can't tolerate antibiotics for numerous reasons, whether they're allergic or otherwise. So there are herbs that can be, I think, just as effective as the antibiotic. But for someone who has acute Lyme disease, antibiotics are an option. I think the challenge is that most people I see don't have acute Lyme. In fact, they don't find out for months to years after the fact they have Lyme, in which case they've missed that window where antibiotics are most effective.
Okay, yeah, so you're right. So most people who maybe didn't get the diagnosis and found out later that they're dealing with Lyme, if they were to take antibiotics at this point, then what would happen in the body?
Well, what happens when you've had Lyme for a long time and you start on the antibiotics, there's probably not a great likelihood it's going to get rid of the infection. But the downside to it is there's a very good chance it's going to start killing off your normal flora in your gut. Yeah. And the reason my book is called The Lyme Paradox is this is the paradox. The treatment you're using to try and eradicate the infection is accidentally killing off your own normal flora, which is necessary to have a normal, healthy immune response. You know, 80% of our immune function comes from our gut. So the more we damage our gut, the more risk we are of halting our own immune system from doing what we want it to do.
Exactly. Yeah, I know most of the people watching this are pretty knowledgeable about what antibiotics do to your microbiome. And so what are some other natural methods that people can use, some natural alternatives to the antibiotics that are being prescribed in the conventional mainstream medicine?
Well, there's several great different herbal protocols out there that I've used very successfully. For children, since I know this is a big part of your audience, I really like the herbs developed by Dr. Lee Cowden. Dr. Cowden he's retired now, but he was a cardiologist in Dallas, and he put together a series of liquid tinctures. Most of these herbs come from the Amazon. They're Peruvian, Amazonian herbs. They've been used historically in those cultures for many years to treat infection. But these herbs are very effective at killing off Lyme. But what's also nice about them is that in addition to killing Lyme, they also help reduce inflammation. They help improve circulation. So, you know, Lyme becomes this very complex illness where it's not just like a regular infection because it's damaging your immune system, it's affecting your circulation, it's causing inflammation. We really kind of have to cast a very wide net in treatment. And I think this is also where antibiotics get to be a bit problematic, is that they're only addressing really that one small part of Lyme, killing the bug. It's not really dealing with all the other things the bug does to the body. And that's where these herbs really kind of step in that role, and they address the broader scope of what Lyme is doing to the body.
Interesting. So are you feeling as though you're now fully recovered from Lyme, or do you still have some setbacks yourself?
I am mostly recovered. I find there are certain stressors that can start to set things off. I only have one symptom that bothers me. I get neuropathy. I get some numbness in my feet. If I have coffee, that sets it off. If I don't sleep well, that sets it off. So I have those few triggers, and as long as I mind those triggers, I feel fine.
That's really interesting, because it's really important, I believe, to understand your body and to work with someone who helps you do so. Because you can keep something at bay, and you can live a full, healthy life if you know what sets you off and you know what those triggers are. So by you avoiding stress, avoiding improper sleep, and avoiding caffeine, that's going to help you to live a great life. And so for other people, those triggers might be a little bit different. So I think that's really important for people to understand that you can recover to a point where you don't have, you're asymptomatic 90% of the time, but there are things that you need to watch out for.
Well, you brought up a really good point. I see so many Lyme patients that, once they get the diagnosis, there's this fear that they'll never recover.
Yeah.
And I want to offer to the viewers that you can recover, and it is possible. I think it's harder with antibiotics. I think the antibiotics do a lot of damage to the body that impede that progress. But with the right tools of dealing with all these aspects of Lyme, with, proper nutrition, good gut health, good sleep, all these different factors, each one gets you closer and closer to crossing that finishing line and feeling well. And I know just in my own personal case, coffee, I love coffee. But I find 1 cup is enough. It doesn't have to take very much, and it doesn't have to be that often. And when I stay away from coffee, things are generally pretty good. And of course, for me, coffee also interferes with my sleep. So there's sort of that cascade effect. But I think, like you said, it's really being mindful of your body and what those triggers are, and not underestimating the trigger. Stress for a lot of people is a major trigger because it interferes with so many other body systems.
Exactly.
And if you've got a life that's filled with stress and you're not dealing with it appropriately, it's really hard to overcome any kind of chronic illness.
Oh, I totally agree. And when we talk about stress, a lot of people just think about like stress from their job or stress from their relationship. But stress can also include toxins that are coming into your body, foods that you have a sensitivity to. So really being mindful of all the stress in your life. And then because we can't avoid stress, so what are your favorite stress reduction techniques for people who are either dealing with Lyme or dealing with another autoimmune condition where stress is really something they need to, if not avoid completely, they need to learn how to deal with?
Yeah, my favorite stress reduction, well, I got 2 things. The first one is I think any kind of exercise is really helpful. Moving your body, even if it's gentle exercise. So I'm a big fan of yoga. I love things like Tai Chi, because most of the Lyme patients I work with are exhausted. They have a very hard time doing anything that's rigorous or strenuous. But these are very gentle forms of exercise that can be adapted to your physical capabilities. And just getting your body moving and stretching and getting the blood going can really make a big difference, both for your physical state, but also for your mental and emotional state. And I also like meditation. I'm not very good at it. I had to really try and practice to learn how to be a good meditator. And you would think it's pretty easy. It's really not. I find personally that guided meditation for me works better, so I can listen to someone else's voice to kind of help me get into that state. But again, it's something that's cheap. It's easy. In many cases, it's free. You can download any number of meditation MP3s online. And it's just teaching your body how to get into that relaxed state. I think, with Lyme disease or, again, any other chronic illness, our body gets in this fight or flight state where it's really hard to get our bodies to wind down. And what it does to our stress hormones, our sleep, and ultimately our immune system is nothing good. So the more that we can get our body in that calm, relaxed state definitely helps improve our health.
Awesome. Yeah, I do believe meditation is definitely called a practice because we do need to practice it. A lot of us who lead busy lives, a lot of the moms listening, a lot of the career people listening, it is hard to stop life and meditate. So I do also enjoy the guided meditations. I have an app called Headspace on my phone, and yeah, they take you through a 10-minute guided meditation. You don't have to worry about clearing your mind of all thoughts. You actually are told what to think. And so it's really, it is a great starter. Like it's a great intro to meditation, but so helpful, so important for stress reduction. So Darin, on the horizon, what do you see in the future of Lyme treatment?
Well, I think where we're headed is it's going to be less about treating the bug and more about treating the immune system. One of the therapies that we've instituted in our practice is called low-dose immunotherapy. This was developed by Dr. Ty Vincent out in Kona, Hawaii. We've been using it now for about 4 or so years. And it's really designed to try and change the way the immune system's reacting to Lyme. I think what happens in a lot of people once they've been exposed to the organism, it's not about what the infection is doing to the body. It's about this autoimmune event that the Lyme has created. So what we really want to do is we want to start turning off that autoimmune response. You know, if you imagine your body's treating Lyme more like an allergen than it is a pathogen, you know, that becomes a problem. So what this therapy is really designed to do is to start to turn off that mechanism that's more like an autoimmune reaction. And it's a very relatively simple process. You know, it's basically a homeopathic dilution of killed Lyme, and we mix it with an enzyme that sort of helps activate the immune system. And I found for a lot of people who've been having symptoms even for many, many years, it seems to help shut off that autoimmune reaction without sacrificing your normal immune function so that you can fight colds and flus and things like that.
Awesome. Yeah, you're kind of coaching up the immune system to make it stronger so it can actually do its own fight. You know, the body can actually heal itself. And that's why I love that approach. It's really interesting. So your book coming out next spring, it's called The Lyme Paradox.
Yes.
Can you tell us a little bit more about what you find in the book?
Yeah, I mean, the book is really sort of the culmination of my own journey with Lyme, plus what I've seen with my own patients. And as I mentioned, it's really not about just killing the bug. It's about dealing with all these other aspects of your life that influence the way really Lyme or any chronic infection can affect your body. So I talk a lot about, you know, diet and nutrition. From a diet perspective, I find an alkaline diet tends to work really, really well for people who've had Lyme disease. This really promotes eating foods that promote better alkalinity in the body. I talk a lot about the different herbal protocols that you can use to treat Lyme. And I discuss specifically 4 different herbal protocols. We also talk a lot about biofilm. Biofilm is this stuff, you know, you wake up in the morning, you get that crusty gunk on your teeth. That's biofilm. It's a natural protective mechanism that bacteria have to keep the body from constantly getting rid of it. Lyme happens to be very effective at making biofilm. Unfortunately, what that means is that when we're using herbs, if you were using antibiotics, or even your own immune system being able to get rid of the infection, it's just harder because things can't quite get to the organism itself. So we use different enzymes to help break down biofilm to make our treatment more effective. I also talk a lot about dealing with other aspects of the immune system. So if you're someone who has chronic Lyme, there's a good possibility you have a history of other types of immune problems. And often that translates into allergy. And so whether you've got seasonal allergies, asthma, eczema, often I hear this history of people with chronic Lyme that they've had some sort of immune disruption before. So we also talk a lot about what are other things you can do to help support your immune system. In my practice, we do a lot of what's called sublingual immunotherapy. These are drops you put under your tongue to help desensitize you against mold and pollen and foods and things of that nature. So as we take that burden off the immune system from an allergy perspective, it's easier for it to deal with what it's supposed to do, and that's get rid of infection. And then the last part of the book really talks about, again, more of these novel therapies that we've been doing. The low-dose immunotherapy is one of them. I've also been using a lot of what's called PEMF. These are pulsed electromagnetic frequency devices. There's been actually quite a bit of research coming out of Europe on this, on how it can basically put in a resonant energy of the body that matches your own and basically stimulates cells to heal, helps improve circulation, and a lot of my Lyme patients have done really well with that. So, I'm constantly looking for new ways to naturally heal the body and get the immune system to work better. And so hopefully by the time the book comes out, we'll have at least the latest research on that kind of stuff.
Awesome. It sounds like a wonderful resource for anyone who is struggling with Lyme, knows someone struggling with Lyme, or just wants to learn more about it. So thank you so much for putting that together. We'll definitely keep an eye out for that next year. But right now, you actually have a great resource for all of our viewers today. You have a free download of your favorite immune boosting recipes. So can you tell us a little bit about that free gift?
Yeah, so if you go to our website and you sign up for our email list, we've got great resources on Lyme disease and the immune system. But our gift is I put together 10 of my favorite immune boosting recipes, things that have actually been designed to help, boost both T cells and B cells and all these things that are involved in helping get rid of infection. So you can really use these anytime you're under the weather, whether you got a cold, you got the flu, or you're dealing with chronic Lyme disease. It's appropriate for all of that. And they've been taste tested. They're actually really delicious. I've made these all myself, and I am a very simple cook. So these are very easy to make for people. And I think it's just a nice, delicious way that you can help nourish your body and start to feel good.
Awesome. That's fabulous. So we will put a link right under this video to download the free gift, to find more about Dr. Ingles and learn about his practices both in California and Connecticut. If you happen to live in one of those states, definitely go visit him. And, thank you so much, Darin, for being here. It's been really refreshing. You have a great perspective on not just treating disease, but healing the body as a whole, which is super important for everyone listening. And thank you again for all your hard work, for, fighting the fight yourself and really using your own struggles to help so many other people. So thank you.
Great. Thanks, Michelle.
Thank you. And thank you guys all for being here today. I hope you enjoyed today's talk with Dr. Ingles. I hope you download his free gift and get your immune system boosted with some delicious recipes. And we will see you back here tomorrow at the Nature Cure Summit. So thanks again. See you guys soon. Have a wonderful day. Bye-bye. Hey there, it's Dr. Michelle, and I just wanted to commend you and thank you for spending a little bit of your day to do something empowering. I hope that you found value in today's content and that you'll go out and use this new information to improve your life, even in a small way. I want you to open up to the possibility of making today, this week, and this year the greatest possibility you've had so far to improve your life. This is about breaking out of old paradigms. It is about learning the act of living naturally. It's about honoring who you are and allowing all that is good into your life. I promise to continue to bring you educational, empowering, and inspiring content to help you achieve the body you dream about, but more importantly, help you live the life you deserve. Remember, all that you need, you already have. It's right here, in nature and within yourself. So stay tuned for some more value-packed interviews and be sure to check out all of the resources at glownaturalmedicine.com.